Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're just seeing my face for the very first time, hi, welcome. My name is Adora and you're watching Life with Ada Beke. Let me know in the comments what made you click, why you're here, was it the thumbnail, was it the title, what made you click. And if you're one of my returners, hi, welcome. You guys be like, you've been having guests recently. Yes. I don't know everything and I always admit that I don't know everything, and I feel like it's very valuable to have other people, share their experiences. With that being said, I have here with me one of my classmates, one of my Nigerian baby girls, Alaba. So she's here and she's going to also be talking to you about her med school journey. Do you want to introduce yourself? Just a quick intro.
Hi, my name is Alaba. I'm a second year medical student. I'm also doing the master's program in medical humanities, compassionate care, and bioethics. Okay. Very happy to be here.
Plenty things. Okay, so like Alaba said, we are both in the same class. We're just going to be talking to you guys today, okay? So the first thing I want to ask is, maybe I should not ask this one, but like, why medicine? What made you be like, okay, I want to go to med school, I want to become a doctor? Like, when did you have that realization?
I've always wanted to be a doctor since I was a child, but I think it was because I felt like I was exposed to so many bad doctors that I was like, this can't be this can't be what's happening in the medical profession. Like, I feel like I would be a good doctor, and so that's kind of how it all started. I didn't really like how the doctors I had seen in my life were, so I decided I would be a good doctor. And that's kind of how this all started. Of course, my motivations have changed over time, and I've grown up a bit more to see the reality of situations, but that was how it all started.
That was kind of like your initial.
Yeah.
So we're both international students. We're actually both from Nigeria as well. So, and just like me, she also did her undergrad here in the US. So how did you even go about applying for your undergrad in the first place?
It was so hard. Oh my God. I applied to a bunch of schools from my secondary school, and I would always have to run to use the computer. Because, you couldn't check things easily. But yeah, I applied to, and I got into Syracuse University, and the process was difficult. I had to get help from all these I don't know, there's these programs that help you apply to stuff, and I think they were helpful, at least because when you're in secondary school, you don't really know what
you don't know what the American system is asking you for, so it's very difficult.
So it was definitely helpful to have that. But then I went to Syracuse University, and that was a good experience too. Good first jump into America,
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you first started college, did you have a good idea? Do you feel like you had a good idea of what med schools required from you to be able to matriculate?
Honestly, no. Now that I've come here and I've seen kind of all the stuff we have to do, before we go into med school, we're like, oh, it's med school, it's be hard. And we know that, but then we don't really know any details of what's going to happen or anything that's happening. We're just here and we're just struggling every day, and they bring in something new and you're like, whoa, I didn't know this was part. But yeah, I definitely in college, I had no idea what was needed or what was going to happen here. It was more like I was very focused on, hitting all the checklists for medical school. And then, now here we are.
Yeah.
So, surprised.
Like with regards to the actual checklist, did you have a good pre-med advice, or did you have people that were telling you that, okay, you need to do the MCAT, you need to take these classes, you need to do research, you need to do do you feel like you had that support at your undergrad?
I'm trying to think back. So there was a pre-med advisor, but I only really started to see them in my junior year of college. And junior year is literally when you're ready.
You're supposed to be applying.
You're
trying to.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, I did speak to my regular advisors, and I did have access to the checklist and stuff. So I was able to ask a few questions, but I don't think I really got as or maybe I don't think I reached out for as much support as I did in like my junior year, because that was when everything was kind of going down, and that's when it became real. You know, I'm applying to medical school, I need to get my stuff together, I need to do all these things. But thankfully I had already been like building up my experience and stuff like that over the years, so when the time came I just had to, you know, do a few, you know, just little tricks here and there, and then
okay, so being an international student, like for me, I know that I faced issues just in general, just like putting together my application. And I was very surprised that for you as an international student, you got into med school straight from college, like no gap years, nothing, she just got in. So you know, and you know, that's not always the case, right? Even for like US students, talk more of international students. So how were you able to like get your GPA and your MCAT to the place you needed to be, like at the first shot?
So honestly, okay, so my GPA was good because I was coming from Nigeria, where you know how it is. You know how it is. Every day you have to be studying, you have to be working. So by the time you come from the Nigerian schooling system and then enter the American schooling system, it became like, these people like me, you know,
you're like, they don't actually hate me,
you know, they're trying to help me succeed, sometimes at least. For the most part, I could see all the ways that I was supported. So even when it felt like it wasn't difficult to get adjusted to school life. Like, sure, I didn't really understand how to write essays, but that's something you learn.
You figured out something.
Yeah, you know, you learn some things, you figure out some things. And I think what also... So my GPA, I feel like just being raised in Nigeria, the way I was, you know, I was able to study, I was able to put in the work. Then I think I did have a lot of extracurriculars. I would say I was very focused in college my first 2 years. So like that was kind of when I started to build towards the checklist. So I was like, oh, I'll volunteer, I'll do this, I do that. I was very active. Then junior year was when COVID hit. So middle of junior year, COVID hit, and by then it's like, well, if you haven't done anything, then you haven't, you know, everything is over for you. You just have to move on. And so junior year, I was also scared I wouldn't be able to apply, because it was like I felt like my activities weren't enough. But then I think by the time I spoke to my advisor, and they were like, you should still try, you know. And we listed everything out, and it seemed decent. Because, you know, you need to do the hours and shit. No, was it the hours? The dates?
There were like dates and all of that,
yeah, and like what you learned. And I discovered like, oh, I had actually done a bunch of things. And then thankfully, a lot of the jobs I had during COVID, I was still able to keep doing them, because I was a mentor for international students. I did this. It was fun. I was an international student mentor, and I also used to tutor people in just like Gen Bio, Gen Chem, and it was already online anyways.
So you were just able to continue doing some of those things.
Right, so those extracurriculars were still there. And then my MCAT, I definitely didn't get the score I was aiming for. I think during the whole pandemic period, studying for the MCAT became...
It was a mess. I also studied for the MCAT during the pandemic. It was a lot.
My brain was closed. It was like a stone.
Even when we had the Keton movie, we went to show, okay, the date I have, is that the date I'm going to still have? And
they moved my date 3 times. I said, I don't know if I'm taking this exam or not. So even by the time, when I took it, I told my uncle, I was like, I don't think I should apply to medical school this cycle. I think I should wait and do something else, you know, to get my scores up. But he was like, no, just do it, just apply. So I applied. I just closed my eyes and I wrote my essays. Exactly. I wrote all my essays. I think the essays were definitely the most difficult part.
Really?
Yeah, for me
at
least. Because there were just so many, and you have to change it a bit for each school. And I just got so tired.
You mean like the secondaries?
Oh yeah, the secondaries.
Okay.
By the time I got to secondaries, I was just done. I said, I'm done. And so, honestly, I think I got into, I would say 2 schools, Stony Brook, and then there was one other school somewhere in the Midwest. Oh, actually 3 schools. There was one other school in Colorado. And I was like, well, I really wanted to be in New York. That was my priority. I wanted to stay in the Northeast area. So that was really good that I was able to come here. It's been enjoyable. At least, you know, like, I feel better here.
Help me bring in Stony groupies on my channel.
See, what can I say? I'm not saying this school is heaven, but
Help us.
but you know, I feel like it could be worse. I feel like
Stop.
I don't know.
Please. But okay, so it seems like you, at least like with the GPA, you kind of had it pat down, and then you were lucky in the sense that you started on time with doing the extracurriculars.
Yeah.
So you didn't get to like third year and you were like, oh, I need to do this so I can fill in this spot. You already had those things pat down. So with creating your school list, how did you go about doing it as an international student? Because that's something that I get a lot of questions about.
Oh yes. Oh my goodness. That was a lot. I can't remember, there was a tool we used, like in the AMCAS
MSAR.
tool. Yeah, the MSAR.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see which schools accept international applicants. So basically I just made a whole list of all the schools that would accept me, theoretically, in theory. And it's tragic to say that like maybe half of those schools were like in the top 20, top 30.
Yeah, they're so hard to get into anyways.
Exactly. I said, what do you mean? I'm supposed to now
Beg. Beg them. They wanted to beg them.
Honestly speaking, it was just like when I saw the list and I said, these are the schools I'm applying to, I'm just sending them money.
That's what it feels like sometimes.
I'm just sending free money. You guys should go and spend. But yeah, that I had to make the list first. And then when I made the list, I was able to kind of cross out the areas. I'm like, I'm not going here. See, nothing is dragging me to, I don't know,
States.
like Tennessee. I'm not going.
LOL.
See,
Not Tennessee
nothing
catching
against-
strays.
Nothing against Tennessee. It's just,
Nashville is nice.
you know, it's probably a good place.
But you were
I
like,
don't know.
not me though.
Yeah, I was like,
good for you, not for me.
Exactly. There was like a school in Kentucky. I was like, no. I just removed it from my list.
Me too.
It just, you know.
I think I know the school you're talking about. I was just like,
Right. So that was how I narrowed it down from there. And then I was also looking at the schools that would give aid to international students because I thought that was something important to me.
Mhm.
Did I find any aid in Stony Brook?
I
No.
was like, no.
They said no.
They help either way.
They didn't help anything. They didn't help. But you know, by the time you get to the end of the cycle, if
Yeah.
any school accepts
Thanks to you.
you're
It's a win.
you're
It's
just
a
so
win.
grateful. You just start begging and saying thank God. Because even Stony Brook, I think accepted me late in like maybe April. May.
Oh, wow.
By then I was, you know, you're just like, I don't know what's going to
Resigned. You
happen.
were resigned to your fate
I was
already.
like, I'm going to do an MFA, you know, something like that.
else. Okay,
That's-
I have a couple more questions left.
Mhm.
So a question I get a lot is how to study for the MCAS. If you feel comfortable, you can share what your score was and then how you actually studied for the MCAS.
Okay, so my MCAT score was a 513. And how I studied, so initially, I actually regret how I studied.
Oh.
I feel like if I had studied differently, my score would have also been different. So I joined like one of those study programs. I think it was Altius, and they were like, "We'll guarantee you a 515 and above." I believed them, and
I don't believe guarantee because how can they guarantee it?
They were like, if you follow the program, if you do everything we tell you to do,
then they'll just say you didn't do everything. Like,
and the thing is that everything they told us to do was just so unnecessary. The amount of detailed things that I had to do according to their program. And I was studying for the MCAT during my junior year, so I had other responsibilities. But these people kind of expected you to spend 8 hours of your day studying. And
how long did you study for the How long did you study before taking the MCAT?
Let's say I started a program in February, and I took the MCAT in June.
So, but kind of about 4 or 5 months. That was
Right.
kind of how long it took.
It was not sustainable. So this program, we're supposed to do so much Anki, so many practice. Sure, maybe all these things in theory would help me out, but the issue was that it didn't really cater to my study style. I don't study for 8 hours. Anybody that knows me knows that after 2 hours,
You're checked out.
I'm like,
bye.
you know,
it was nice working with you.
It was really nice. If we cannot do this within 2 hours,
we can come back later in the day, but
But so for them to tell me to do 8 hours was something else. But the thing is, like, at that point, I didn't really know
Anything else? You
Yes.
didn't have like an
I didn't have any other option. So I said I would do it. I dedicated my life to this. I dedicated my life to them, and not even 2 months into studying for the MCAT, I was burned out. I was like, I cannot do this anymore. So by the time the exam got moved once, got moved twice, I said I stopped studying. Like, I stopped studying for like maybe a couple months, just because the pandemic, I was tired. I felt like it wasn't working, blah blah blah. But then finally they gave me another date, and then I realized, like, Alaba, this exam, you've already paid like $300. Oh, how much is this exam?
$340 or so. Yeah.
You've already paid $300. You're not paying this twice. So I had to sit back down and start studying again. I tried to stick with what they told me to do, but like at the end of the day, when I saw my score, I was like, yeah, I feel like the way I studied wasn't the way I should.
Oh, you still got a very high score, actually.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Yeah, but you feel like if you studied like that and it was great, imagine what it could have been if you had like
Exactly.
I see where you're coming from.
Because I'm like, I don't use Anki, and one of the major way that they proposed was Anki, and I'm like, even now in medical school, I don't use Anki, and it's been good that way. So imagine using Anki and trying to force all that in my head. It was not working. So studying for the MCAT was difficult. My recommendation for anyone out there is, if you want to use a program, it's helpful, it's fine, they might give you guidance, but always keep in mind your own specific study style. Because if it doesn't work, it won't work.
Yeah.
You will just be burned out, and suddenly you'll find yourself sleeping when you're supposed to be studying. You're like, what's happening?
So you mentioned, so Alaba is a very creative person. She's into all this creative writing, and I always tell you guys that you can major in anything and come to med school, and like it doesn't mean you have to drop your passions just to follow medicine. So do you want to speak a little bit about like the masters that you're doing while in med school, and like what you've done with it so far?
Oh yes. So like Adora said, you don't have to do something sciencey to get into medical school. I also think at least Stony Brook has been prioritizing students a lot.
Like different people have different majors and come. Yeah.
So in Syracuse, I got my Bachelor's of Science in Biology, and then I minored in English and Textual Studies. So I've always been a big fan of creative writing, all these things, and I don't want to let that go as a doctor. I want to be a writer and a doctor. And so when I got here, I didn't join the master's program immediately because I needed to see if I was going to sink or
You're like, am I dying first? Hold on.
You can't just add something new to your plate when you're adding medical school to your plate. No, it will finish you. So I waited like for the first semester and a half before I started saying, okay, actually I might do this program. And the reason I wanted to do the program is the Masters in Medical Humanities, Compassionate Care, and Bioethics. I just really feel like I wanted something to connect me still to the humanities, something that will make me enjoy doctoring. Because sure, we do all this stuff in school and we learn so much, we're learning so much every day, but then none of what we learn is anything similar to what I'm learning in my classes, Like, sure, maybe it might bring up, someone might have a disease in the ethical situation, and you might know the pathophys.
Yeah, like the pathophys, I have to take care of it and all of that, but
like,
there's just a whole new approach,
exactly.
And it's a new lens.
Exactly, and I really like that because it makes me feel a bit more energized while I'm doing medical school stuff, because now I'm learning the school stuff, but then I go to my master's classes. Like this semester I'm taking 2. One of them is compassionate care, and then the other one is clinical ethical clinics, something like that. Just clinical ethical situations, and we get to see all these things that have happened in the past, and like, patient autonomy, or all these things that are different from what we're learning in school, and I feel like so many people would benefit from it. And also, because of like doing the masters, you also have to do like an SCP project, and it's basically a research project that you choose. And so my research project is trying to connect the things I'm interested in, the things I love. So like creative writing and, anti-racism. So that's what I'm using for my scholarly concentration. And sure, it's more work. Yes. It's more work on top of medical school. However, I think it's different. It's like it's challenging a different part of my brain completely. It's like medical school. I come in, I have to study, I have to do this, but then I come to these classes and I have to write an essay or I have to think about this thing. It's different.
Yeah, it's different.
Something different. It spices things up. If you like these topics, then it becomes very interesting. And so I'm really happy I'm doing that program because then I get to connect things. And I still write poetry. I still write regular writings when I have time. Yeah, it's slow going. Definitely all your hobbies will slow down just a little, but you can hold on.
So I want you guys to know that you can do an MD and an additional program. So there are dual degree programs. There's MD PhDs, there's MD MA, like what she's doing, there's MD MPH, there's MD MBAs. So different schools have different things. There's even MD JDs, so you can be a doctor and a lawyer at the same time. So things like this, even I think MD at dental school, but that you'll be an oral maxillofacial. See, your passions can be catered to in this journey. So I think it's very important. Any last words, any last piece of advice for people who are in undergrad, especially for our international students? The struggle is real. So any last words of advice for them?
I would say you don't have to know everything. You don't have to be the best in the room or whatever. I know we come from Nigeria. We're coming from Nigeria. I understand how it is. we know
everywhere internationally.
International. We're coming from all these places that there's so much pressure. You have to be number one. You have to be number one. But then I want you to reframe your mind, and rather than being number one, just be confident in yourself. Confidence in what you have to carry, what you have to sell. You're coming into medical school. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Just, you've done it. Or you're trying to get into medical school. Don't be afraid. Just be confident in your skills. There's so many other people applying. Why should they pick you? Honestly, God knows. Just tell yourself,
Right.
Just have that confidence that you deserve it and you deserve to be here. And I think when you do, it's kind of attract all those positive things to you. Hopefully.
Yes. So with that being said, thank you so much, Alaba, for coming on the channel. You're going to see her again. I dragged her today, but I'll drag her again. But thank you so much. You've given us a new perspective. Me, I'm a reapplicant. I didn't get in the first try. So it's always very fascinating when I meet people who are one and done, bam. Especially as an international student, So I think it's just so important to hear that perspective, hear that story, and for people to know it's possible, for people to know that it can happen. So as usual, don't forget to like this video, comment, share, let people know what we are doing on this channel. We are changing lives, I think. But till the next time I see you guys, I remain your girl Adaveke, okay? Bye. Mwah.